This is one of the most remarkable articles I've ever read, in a bad way. This is written by a guy named Max Boot.
Oh, that's who wrote it.
Yeah. So he's one of these guys who could be a complete psychopath at any given at the drop of a hat, and then sometimes he'll say something normal. Like I think he called out Russiagate for being.
Who?
I think he called Russiagate for being garbage, like we did. But he's a big warmonger, and you're going to see here. So Joe Biden, when he was running for president, was saying he was going to treat the Prince of Saudi Arabia as a pariah, and that he was going to make him pay for chopping up that journalist Khashoggi. Now he's president, and you see that's not happening, right?
You have the jokes, right?
Yeah, so I got the jokes. So the headline is, "Cut Biden some slack. The United States presidents have to deal with dictators." For a second, I thought Biden was unveiling his new 2024 slogan, cut me some slack. I think that's it. It's better. It's a better slogan than no malarkey. I'll tell you that.
Remember the no malarkey?
Joe Biden, cut me some slack, 2024. On Friday, Biden was photographed by the Saudis engaging in that greeting with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, popularly known as MBS. This was more than a little awkward. Why? Because the U.S. intelligence has concluded that MBS ordered the operation that led to the killing and the chopping up of the Washington Post contributing columnist Jamal Khashoggi. So here's their big meeting. You don't need to see it. He gets out. It's not a big deal. I'll speed it up. Oh, look, he's taking those tiny steps. He takes those tiny steps, Joe Biden. He's very frail, very fragile, tiny step. So there they go.
Bump.
They did a fist bump?
Yeah, you saw that?
I didn't see
that.
Yeah,
that was the big thing. They fist bumped.
Is that what the big deal is? That they fit? Let's watch.
Yeah,
Here
watch.
It comes. Let's watch them fist bump. Here comes Daddy Small. Oh!
I thought that was you're gonna make fun of that.
They did fist bump.
Yeah.
Look at that. Is that the hand that ordered the dismemberment and the chopping up of the journalist? I can
really, they hacked Bezos' phone. I'm sure it's a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Biden once vowed to turn Saudi Arabia into a pariah for carrying out this murder. So the fact that he's now fist bumping with MBS understandably provokes outrage. You know what? That's why Biden gave him some dap. What is that?
Some dab.
I don't even know what that is. Oh, is that what you call that? Dap?
Yeah. I mean, it's like probably older slang, but
I never heard that slang. Giving him some dap?
Yeah.
I never heard that. I can't.
I got my ear to the streets, Jimmy.
You do. You got that. I think he did when he fist bumped him. Did he go, "What's up, my pariah"? Did he say that? That'd have been nice. Here, Joe Biden, in departure from Obama policy, says he would make Saudi Arabia a pariah. That's what he said when he was running for president. But now Max Boot says, "I too recoiled at first from that distasteful image. But then I recalled that MBS is hardly the first or even the worst despot that the U.S. presidents have greeted in similar ways." Oh, my God. Oh, did you recoil at first? Did you recall that perchance, after you literally recoiled in horror like Abbott and Costello meeting the mummy, you suddenly remembered, phew, hey, we fuck around with all kinds of mass murdering, dictating crazy people. Oh. Harry Truman shook hands with Joseph Stalin. Richard Nixon with Mao Zedong. And both of those dictators had far more blood on their hands than MBS. That is a good point. Yes, there's plenty of leaders with more blood on their hands than MBS. For example, how about every one of the presidents of the United States in my lifetime? How about that? So if we're suddenly just judging by bloody hands, he's actually got one of the best ESG scores on the exchange. I don't even know what ESG stands for.
Environmental Social Governance.
There you go. Kurt knows.
That's what's holding back the Jimmy Dore show. You don't have a high ESG score.
That's right. Kurt's very woke. He knows what ESG stands for. I have never even heard that. What is it for? Environmental what?
That's that whole like woke FICA, the black water, whatever the call has for all the companies where they, then
what
at the end of it, somehow BP's the best, the best environmental score.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, then it turns out that I think Arco was up on their top 10, but Elon Musk's wasn't, his electric car company. That was
he's got a low score.
He's got a low score. Okay. Columnists can hurl. So this is Max Boot again speaking in the Washington Post. Columnists can hurl thunderbolts of outrage from on high, but moral purity is a luxury. So if a guy, so the guy literally kills and chops up a journalist, and if you're going to acknowledge that, that's a luxury.
How rich of a nation do we have to be to afford the luxury of moral purity?
It is a luxury. I was just saying that to my good friend Vladimir Putin. What a luxury that is. Every president has to pursue both America's ideals and its interests, and often they're at odds. In the case of the Saudis, we simply don't have the luxury of completely isolating one of the world's largest oil producers. Oh, except we just did that to Vladimir Putin in Russia.
Well, you can have one.
It's as true today as when Donald Trump first truthfully blurted it out. And you all acted like it wasn't true because you didn't have the luxury of being truthful like some people. In truth, MBS is more ambivalent. He's a more ambivalent figure than the cartoon villain that is so often made out to be in the media. Oh, yes.
Does that mean he's both right and left-handed?
Ambivalent?
No, I don't know.
It's true that he is cruel and repressive. He has created a climate of fear in Saudi Arabia, imprisoned dissidents, and accumulated absolute power. But I can still have pro wrestling fan emotions about other cartoon villains that you told me to hate, right? Like Vladimir Putin.
Don't take that away.
Or Gaddafi or Assad or anybody, right? I can still have those kind of horrible emotions about those cartoon villains that the United States wants me to hate as cartoon villains. Okay. But while illiberal politically, this is again the guy in the Washington Post, but while illiberal politically, he is liberalizing Saudi society. This guy who chops up journalists and commits a genocide in Yemen. He is liberalizing Saudi. Why? The once feared religious police have been largely sidelined, not completely. We still have our religious police. Come on, don't be an asshole. Women are allowed to drive. Women are allowed to travel without a male guardian and to live by themselves. Men and women can dine together in restaurants. Tourists are welcome for the first time. Theaters and concerts have been opened. And guess what? The trains are running on time. So I guess everything's okay. Yeah, that's why people liked Hitler. Maybe he made the train. And Mussolini. The trains ran on time.
They respected the theater as well.
And they respected the theater, just like MBS. Could you believe this shit? I couldn't write comedy that parodied this. This is already a parody. This is hilarious. Guess what? You know what else that liberal democracy did over in Saudi Arabia? It executed a record 81 people in one day. 81 people in one day they executed. Wow. Okay, you got to give it to them. That's an impressive score for one day, but America still number one in overall executions, and none of that pussy liberal quick beheading shit like they do in Saudi Arabia. We give lethal injections where you are burned from the inside while nobody can hear you scream. And Europe won't even sell us the drugs to do that anymore. You know why? Because Europe's full of a bunch of pussies. All the same time, MBS is liberalizing Saudi. At the same time, he's liberalizing Saudi's society. He is repressing liberal reformers. The murder of Khashoggi is but the most gruesome manifestation of this vile policy. Oh, so he works with BlackRock as well? Glad to have him. Glad to have him. There is also the notorious case of Luhan al-Hathoui. I don't know who that is. That's the activist who campaigned for women's right to drive and go out in public without a male relative. As noted by The Atlantic, the Saudis threw her in jail, where she was allegedly tortured and threatened with execution after MBS announced the imminent end of both policies in 2018, because they had to make an example out of her. Right? That's what that is. Right? Even though they were going to get rid of the policy she was advocating getting rid of, they still had to show. There is no easy way to deal with such complicated figure whose legacy is so mixed. He's an angel and a devil. He's a good guy and a bad guy. I mean, life is complicated. Come on. Biden cannot afford to go to the extreme of cynically, uncritically embracing MBS, and then President Donald Trump and his son-in-law, Jared, as Trump and Kushner did.
Leave some room for Jesus with a fist bump. That's what.
So he still found a way to shit on Trump. He still found a way. Trump doing the exact same thing that Biden's doing.
He'd have turned on the gas for Trump.
Ah. They need to hire some WWE writers or something. People who know how to write heel to baby face turns. You know what I'm talking about? That's what they need. Biden is muddling through by meeting with MBS while raising the issue of Khashoggi's murder. Really? He's raising the issue? Whether he actually called out the prince to his face for being responsible as he claimed, that remains unclear. I mean, I don't know if he's really calling him. I don't know if he's not going to say that.
Well, he might have been talking to an invisible man whose hand he was.
Yeah, he was. By the way, what do people think Biden's going to do about Khashoggi? You know, Julian Assange is still alive and Biden's trying to kill him. You know, if you care so much, maybe you could do a full court press to prevent another journalistic murder, that one being Assange. But I'm guessing that the establishment doesn't give a huge shit about either of those two journalists. More broadly, he's making clear that the United States values its alliance with Saudi Arabia, but would like it to curb human rights abuses too.
Hey, I'd like a full head of hair, you know? It is what it is.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, we like to, but we can't do any of that. We can't make Saudi Arabia do shit. Who is this article for, by the way?
Yeah,
right? Someone who is that informed about Saudi Arabia, yet is deliberately uninformed at the same time. Who is this article for? Stephen Colbert?
It's an open letter to Stephen Colbert, probably.
So he ends it by saying, that is not a very satisfying or sexy, but I don't have a better alternative. I'm not sure anyone does. Sometimes there simply isn't a perfect policy, and the best a president can do is to try to pursue the least bad approach. That's what Biden's doing, and while it might be morally satisfying to castigate him, I'm inclined to cut him some slack.
It's, you know, Jimmy, it's a lot like a spending the night with Max Boot. It's not very satisfying or sexy. The best you could do is ask him to take that stupid hat off. And
well, here he is.
Cut him some slack.
Here he is tweeting in February of 2021. He says, the crown prince is a dangerous loose cannon whose reckless behavior included a war in Yemen, holding for ransom Saudi Arabia's richest men, and sending a hit team to murder and dismember Jamal Khashoggi. Biden is now acting to bring him under control.
Max Boot's a piece of shit. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Jesus Christ. So at any given moment, he'll say whatever thing that serves him at that moment. And now that this doesn't serve him, he's now saying the opposite thing. Right. Now that Biden is not bringing him under control, it's the exact opposite. MBS is controlling Joe Biden because Joe Biden needs oil. Here's what a blue check says. His henchmen literally sawed your colleagues to death, Max.
Oh, that guy worked for his paper. That's right.
That's right.
Oh, my God.
Khashoggi worked for the Washington Post. The guy he's saying isn't so bad chopped up one of his colleagues, literally.
And you judge Felicia Sonmez for getting mad about a tweet.
Right? John Swartz says, let's not turn a dictator who had a Washington Post columnist murdered and dismembered into a cartoon villain, argues Washington Post columnist. Let's not make the guy who had another guy dismembered,
embalmed while alive.
Let's not make that guy into a cartoon villain. That guy's still a decent guy. You'd have him babysit your kid. And of course, Defiant L's, he caught it. So here's Max Boot before Trump's corrupted foreign policy, coddled the dictator, abused the ally.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's saying, cut Biden some slack. U.S. presidents have to deal with dictators. So when Trump was doing it, it was horrible. When he's doing it, when Biden's doing it, it's okay. You got to cut some slack. Defiant L's. Fuck, that is the best Twitter account on Twitter. And they took him down. They tried to ban him for a bit, but he got back on somehow. So there you go. Another Washington Post. The biggest disseminators of misinformation and lies is the Washington Post. And this column is a proof of that. If I said things that were that incorrect, they'd take my channel down. But if you say that in the Washington Post, you get paid for it. You get praised. You'll be brought on Sunday talk shows to talk about it, and you'll get bonuses. What do you want to say, Kurt?
I was going to say, you got to admit that Jeff Bezos has come a long way since that guy hacked his phone and put all his dick pics out there. That's big of him to have his paper. You know, hey, there's nuance to this guy, you know?
So it was Saudi Arabia who hacked his phone and
they made it sound like it was his new squeeze, that her brother that did it. But
yeah,
no, it's Saudi Arabia.
It was Saudi Arabia that did it.
Yeah.
And why were they? Oh, and they were mad at him because he owned the Washington Post, and they were writing those articles about him.
MBS made friends with him and exchanged numbers. And there's some hacking program that came out of Israel that now all the countries have, where you could find pretty easy. It's kind of a little known. They can hack into anything you got. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable. There's no security for anyone.
Sacramento, back here in Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Indianapolis, Louisville, Cincinnati, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all our shows.